And a wonderful Friday evening. It's time for the Friday Night Fire Fun Free-for-All and everything in between tonight. We're grateful to have everybody. I was debating on the cowboy hat or the USA hat, but this is Victory Day, 4th of July, fireworks, a week early. What a week. What a day. We're going to talk about it tonight. Take your questions. Have a little fun with you. I was trying to find some funny stuff. Some of it's too funny. Maybe the kids will be in bed later. We might play some of it. I don't know. We are grateful to be with you tonight, and I'll go ahead and get this out of the way tonight. It is elementary.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson, and...
Do you understand
understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I love that, and we will probably play in that a lot tonight. I was on the radio show yesterday, and we got a few emails in about the radio show. Thank you all that are listening to us every day from 2 to 3. I want to thank K-Star Talk Radio. We had a good show today, good show yesterday. I told the people yesterday as I signed off on Thursday that today was going to be a crossroads of our nation. There were so many court cases that were coming up on the Supreme Court docket today that they were going to decide on. And I made this statement Thursday afternoon before I signed off. I may have even made it last night here, that we were at a crossroads. And the way that the court went today was going to determine things not just for President Trump and not just when he was in office, but it was going to determine the future, because these decisions that were made today are going to affect presidents going forward, both Republican and Democrat. And we're going to talk about a couple of them tonight. The biggest one that happened today was this judicial tyranny was basically beat down and slapped down to where now a district judge in Podunk Collar, USA, who's paid for by the Dems and tries to act like that they are God instead of the president, who's the executive of the country. He's the CEO of the country. And dictate policy from the bench instead of dealing with the constitutionality of what's before them. Well, their little heyday and their little party is done. The Supreme Court tonight, 6 to 3 today, basically said that these injunctions cannot go forward, and it really has to do with the birthright citizenship situation. It's going to open the door, folks, for a tremendous shift in our country. The Supreme Court, we're going to talk about that in detail tonight a little bit. I was going to try to get some folks on. Everybody seems to be doing something tonight, so it's just me, and that's okay. I'm looking for a legal expert that we can depend on to turn to in these matters. We used to have a few, but they've gone on to bigger and better things, and that's all right. We'll find somebody. But the big case today was this judgeship. But it's going to have a ripple effect on the birthright citizenship issue. Now, what I mean by that is that if you're here illegally, you come in illegally, and you have a child, okay? Well, the left has argued, Obama argued, that the baby is now a legal citizen. And what that did, it made it harder to deport mom and daddy that came in here illegally, because they can claim, well, we've got a child here that is a citizen. It's what they tried to trash Holman with many times as he was getting ready to take over the border czar job. And the famous interview, I think it was one of the CNN twits that asked him, they said, well, are you about deporting, you breaking up families by your hardcore illegal roundup policies? And Tom Holman had the absolute quote of not the year, not the decade, but the century, when he said, no, we're not breaking up families. We can deport everybody. We don't have to just deport mom and dad. We'll deport everybody. But basically what this does, folks, is setting the stage for an October showdown on the court about birthright citizenship. And I've got a feeling what I heard tonight and what I heard today, if you're here illegally tonight, I'm just giving you some sound advice. Adios. And Trump had some comments about it today. We'll play. And we're going to talk about it. He had Pam Bondi up there. It's a great press conference. There's something else that happened today that the media on the left is not even reporting tonight. It is a huge development. And I have to admit, I was watching television. We usually come on a little later on Friday night, so that's why we're on late, because I like to go into the late night with you on Friday. It's just a more relaxed atmosphere. And But I was watching a press conference, and we're going to play these clips of the Congo representative from the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. Both representatives signed a peace treaty today at the structuring and the encouragement of Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, President Trump. These two nations have been fighting each other for 30 years. Tens of millions of people have died in this bloody conflict. These two countries now have stopped fighting. And the president should get a lot of credit for that tonight. And someone asked the chat last night, do you think he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize? I put it like this. If President Trump don't get nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize this year, they should just throw away the prize. They just should throw the thing in the trash, because it's not a Nobel Peace Prize. It's a political peace prize. This was huge today. And there were religious leaders in the White House that were there when they signed this agreement in this press conference, and it's big. It's a big deal. I've been to Rwanda, or near there. I was actually in Burundi and Uganda and Kenya back in 1994. The only time I've really been overseas, and I was a snot-nosed kid then, and I wished I could go back now with more wisdom. I wished I could go back to that day and transfer the wisdom of a 60-year-old into a 28-year-old at the time, 29-year-old. But I was there. We got there in December of '94, and that was 4 months after the Rwanda genocide that erupted. 1.5 million people died in Rwanda, but with the Hutsis and the Tutsis, and horrible genocide. The Clinton administration couldn't even call it a genocide, and but the two nations, Rwanda and the Congo, which are next door to each other, have been fighting a similar genocide for 30 years. And this was sort of under the radar. Nobody had really known that President Trump and them were working on this. And it just goes to show you, folks, he's committed to being a peacetime president. He's committed to doing everything he can to make sure that this planet stops killing itself. And I commend him. The Middle East is very complicated. We talked about this last night. I hope and pray that this ceasefire stays with Iran and Israel. I really do. It is pathetic and vile. It's absolutely disgraceful. Some of the comments that people are making about Israel, even tonight, and Iran, and this whole thing that Trump did over the weekend is coming up tomorrow night. It'll be a week ago tomorrow night that he did this. Today is an interesting day on the calendar, too, in the fact that it was 1 year ago tonight that Joe Biden basically Titanic the Dem Party. I think the demise of the Democrat Party started a year ago tonight. It was the debate between Trump and Biden, the one and only debate. And it was really funny because they had it in June, and debates usually don't take place in the summer. Usually, most of these debates have always taken place in October. And the Dems did this on purpose because they were really seeing if Biden was up to the task. And when they saw that he wasn't, they figured this would give them time to put Kamala Harris on the ticket. And that's what they did. And then, they just went into frenzy. It was almost like Camelot. Kamala was the greatest candidate in the world, which she wasn't. And the country let them know that she wasn't. And, she's been absolutely silent. And there's rumblings that she's going to be running for governor of California. And I was reading some pundits tonight, and I think the Dems, the consensus is basically the Democratic Party is just wishing Kamala and Joe both would go away. They're not going away. So a lot of these things are going on tonight. We're going to get right to them. I'm sort of setting the stage for this, but I want to just say a few thoughts about it, and then we're going to show you some video, take your questions tonight. Folks, I will tell you this. I've said this numerous times. President Trump is the greatest president of my lifetime. He is the greatest president I've ever seen. we will be looking back on this after these 4 years, if the Lord tarries any length of time. I know the media won't say this, and I know the left won't say this, and I know the Dems won't say this, and your liberal family members won't say this, and your liberal loon bomb friends won't say this. Because America has a problem tonight calling good evil and evil good. America has a problem exchanging darkness for light and light for darkness right now. America has a problem not recognizing what God is trying to do through a man, though faulty and sometimes human, and sometimes lets it all hang out, which we all do. I've seen a lot of judgment passed on him this week about what he did Monday with his language and all, and people nitpick and strain at gnats to swallow camels, and they got to find something to bitch about. They got to find something to complain about. They got to find something to say, "Aha! I told you so" about. That's what Americans do. We've got one of the this week that we've seen this week, folks. I don't know if we're going to have too many more weeks like this. If we keep having weeks like this, I mean, this country is going to be on a trajectory that we may see things that none of us in our lifetime have seen in a positive manner. Now, there's a spiritual component to this that I'm going to sort of save till tomorrow or Sunday, because Sunday's our faith show, and we have a Sunday morning service and a Sunday night service, and I got some thoughts about it because it's tied prophetically into things that are coming. But at the very minimum, I personally believe that what God is doing to our country, He is causing a dividing line between it. And this rebellious spirit and all of these things that are happening is paving the way for one last move of God's Spirit upon this earth and planet. I believe it. And like I said last night, I stand behind what I said last night, folks. Look, if there is peace in the Middle East, and this light keeps wanting to not work, if there is peace in the Middle East, it will be short-lived in the sense, and when I say short-lived, that doesn't mean it's going to last a week or two. It could last a year. It could last a year and a half, but it's not going to last forever. The Bible's very clear about that. But what we must do in this interim is make sure that America fulfills its destiny. What is its destiny? Two things. God created this country to be a bastion of light and a carrier of the gospel of Jesus Christ to the four corners of this earth. That's what this country was created to do. That was the first and foremost thing in God's mind, that we would have the resources to do it, we would have the ability to do it, and we would be able to carry this gospel to people that would not be able to receive it otherwise outside the ministry and the outsourcing of America's churches. Sadly, tonight, we've got missionaries coming here instead of us sending missionaries over there, because missionaries overseas are being told by God America is in far worse shape spiritually than your own nation. And many of them are coming from countries that are pretty bad. And the second thing that America was created to do that she's not done for a while, and that's stand in the gap for Israel. Now, I know that there are some of these cessationists and people that don't believe in the literal state of Israel being legitimate that disagree with that, and anti-Semitic prophets disagree with it, and anti-Semitic preachers and teachers and talk show hosts and social media darlings and former Fox News hosts, they don't agree with that. They see Israel as the great Satan on the earth. They see Israel as the source of all the evil on the earth. It's amazing how a nation with just basically 15 million people, folks. We got a 6 to 7 billion. Think about this. We got 6 or 7, close to 7 to 8 billion people on this earth, and a little group of people that is 15 million in number is basically accused all the time of controlling the earth and controlling every single thing that happens on the earth. It's Israel's doing. It's Israel's fault. Israel's behind it. Bad. If it's bad, it's Israel's fault. If it's bad, Israel did this. If something in the if a pebble falls off a cliff, it's Israel's fault, and Israel's behind it. And that's a spiritual malaise and a spiritual malady by many. But that's what we've been called to do. You can believe that or not. I heard a Baptist pastor tonight was mocking Genesis 12:3, and he made the comment. He said, well, that was given to a man named Abraham. It wasn't given to Israel. Well, if he would read his Bible and stop acting like a kindergartner that can't read, he would see that God's promises to Abraham was also to his seed. And his seed, when he says thee, I will bless thee. When you look at the covenant that he cut with Abraham, he didn't just cut it with Abraham, he cut it with Isaac. He appeared to Jacob, whose surname is Israel. He even cut it with Moses. And then when Joshua, before he came into the promised land, he reiterated to Joshua all the things that I told your ancestor, your fathers, which is in the Jewish mindset. When you see the word fathers and you hear them say fathers in Jewish terminology, it speaks of Abraham, the God of the fathers. Well, it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. It's amazing to me how people say stuff like this and they just ignore the fact that God don't identify himself, folks, with any other nation. He's not called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and America. He's not called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Europe. He's not called the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Washington, D.C. He calls himself this. I am the God of your fathers. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's how he identified himself over and over and over and over. And he still identifies himself that way tonight because God don't change. So when you hear all this Jew-hating talk coming from preachers and coming from spiritual leaders, just ignore it. Because I'm here to tell you tonight, folks, that America's blessing tonight, I firmly believe what's happened this week is tied to what President Trump did last Saturday night. Trump did the right thing for Israel's sake. He protected Israel. Candace Owens is out there tonight in her vile, pathetic mouth, mocking that. So is Tucker. So is other voices that are doing it. They're mocking that. They're claiming Bibi put Trump up to it, and because Bibi controls the American government, Trump was more than willing to try to start a war with Iran, which that was not what the purpose of this bombing was a week ago tomorrow night. It was to destroy a nuclear facility. But in destroying that nuclear facility, Trump removed a threat to the Israeli people, folks. And when you bless Israel and when you protect Israel, you're doing basically what God's ordained this country to do. Blessings follow. And if you look at what's happened this week, folks, there's an avalanche of blessing. Everything that he has touched this week, everything that matters to Donald Trump, everything that matters to his cabinet, everything that he has put his hand to this week has prospered in a way that we've never seen. And it is, and not only is it prospering, what it's doing, it is destroying his enemies. In other words, all the arguments, all the fallacies, all the lies, all the things that the enemies of America have claimed that the terrorists would do, that claimed this bombing would do. There were everybody, all these panicans were, we're going to be in World War III by Monday. We're going to have ground troops on the ground in Iran next week. All this crap and all this stuff has been proven to be wrong. People were complaining, scared of the terrorists. We're being told tonight there's a trade deal with China about to be signed. Billions of dollars, billions, $81 billion have come into the American coffers from these terrorists. By the way, I want to just say something to the Canadian people tonight. I love you guys, but you have found out the hard way that you mess with the bull, you're going to get the horns. And instead of acting like petulant children, I'm talking to the government, I ain't talking to you folks that are in our chat room as Canadians. I love you guys, but your government is stupid. And Carney is stupid. He's basically put your country now in a place that's going to go bankrupt. Because Trump's cut off all trade negotiations with Canada tonight, and he's tired of messing with it. And he was trying to deal fairly, and Canada didn't want to do it. So they're about to pay a price. And then we've been told that gas prices are not coming down. Well, we found out today that 1 week before the 4th of July, our gas prices are the lowest they've been in 4 years. 4 years. So, everything that has been spoken to him, against him, lied about, manipulated in the media, claiming it's going to happen, the exact opposite has happened. And when I see stuff like that happening, folks, there's a spiritual divine presence that is causing that. When you bless Israel, you're blessed. But when you curse Israel, you're cursed. And let me just say this tonight. When you curse somebody that is blessing Israel, you're cursed too. So, this has been a powerful week. And I was going to bring out the cowboy hat. I hadn't brought the cowboy hat out all week, and I said, it's time to recognize that the USA is winning tonight. What I was going to say before I get to these videos, folks, we're going to be beyond Trump in 3 years, and I hate to see that day come. This man has done more for this country. His first term, he had a lot of problems because he trusted a lot of the wrong people. He's not made that mistake. He's got one of the best cabinets. He has got one of the best group of people working behind him right now that any president has ever had. They're loyal to him. They're loyal to the country. They're not yes men. They tell President Trump how they feel. He listens to them. There's been a camaraderie between them when they've done things that he don't agree with. He's told them about it. They probably reciprocated. Him and Tulsi, people were trying to divide him and Tulsi Gabbard this week, and Tulsi came out there and said, me and President Trump are not on the different pages. We're on the same page. Pete Hegseth people were panicking about Pete. He's young, he's inexperienced, and he don't know what he's doing. Turns out, I tell you what, he sure did look like me last Saturday night. He knew what he was doing. One of the most excellent military campaigns we've ever carried out, folks. What we did Saturday night was flawless. There's never been something done like that on a military level. Military people out there are still just in amazement of how this went down last Saturday night. You've got Tom Homan, that has been one of the best border czars in the history of this country. Pam Bondi doing a good job. Not excellent, but a good job at Attorney General. And I like Pam. Kash Patel, I'm jury's out on Kash, but he's doing a good job. I think that Marco Rubio, I've been so shocked and so pleasantly shocked. Marco Rubio is going to turn out to be one of our best Secretary of States we've ever had. You got one of the best vice presidents. I love J.D. Vance. He's loyal to his boss. See, I respect people that are loyal to people over them. I respect that. The world respects that. And whether we think that or not, when the world sees a cabinet working together and not backstabbing each other and out there telling one thing overseas and then coming back and saying something to the press over here or vice versa, you see, countries sense that. They sense that a country's divided. And when a country's divided, they take advantage of us. They can't take advantage of us right now because, see, we're operating as one. There's power in unity. And unity does not mean that you just tip your hat and agree with everything President Trump does. No, you support him and you recognize that he's the leader. He's got to make the decision. You give him your input, as this cabinet does, as to what you think is the best way to go. And from what I understand, that's how he handles all of these situations, folks. This thing with Iran wasn't just planned last Saturday night. Trump's been talking to people about this for 2 months. And that's what I respect about him. And that's what people respect. And it's why our nation is being blessed tonight. It's amazing. I saw a post tonight. I'll just say this. Have you noticed the riots have calmed down? Do you know why the riots have calmed down? Because the L.A. district attorney, who is actually a smart man for a change for it to be L.A., he announced last week that they were investigating the money behind the riots. And the U.S. Attorney's Office and the District Attorney's Office of the country has said they're going to give them resources to do just that. And the second it was put out there that they're going after the money behind the riots, guess what? The riots have stopped. The riots have stopped because the people with the money don't want to be found out. So they've said, knock it off. Y'all are about to get us all thrown in jail. So it's been a winning week for the U.S. of A. It's been a winning week for Israel. It's been a winning week for the Congo and Rwanda. It's been a winning week for the world, folks. When America is right, the world is right. When America is weak, the world goes to hell. When America don't lead, the world goes to hell. When America leads, the world will follow because we show leadership. We are still the world superpower tonight. The only superpower on this earth is the United States of America. There is no nation like us still at this late hour, despite all of our issues, despite all of our little bumps, despite all of our little warts. We are the greatest country on the face of this earth. And I'm damn well proud to be a citizen of this nation. I am an American. And I'm grateful for the freedom that the God of heaven has granted this republic. But I will tell you this tonight, folks. We're going to miss Donald Trump when he's gone. And we're going to look back on this time and pray that we can only find somebody a third as effective and as a leader as he's been, and with the common sense and the knowledge that he's brought to this presidency. We may never see it again. And we need to appreciate it tonight. Instead of posting stupid blank stuff on Telegram rooms trying to get attention, mocking the MAGA movement and mocking people that follow him, and trying to become relevant by posting conspiracy stuff all over the place and anti-Semitic Jewish stuff all over the place. We need to be grateful we got a president tonight that's trying to keep the world out of killing itself. Vladimir Putin tonight. He told the world tonight in a press conference, he said, I respect President Trump more than any other president I've ever dealt with. He said, I know that this situation with the Ukraine and us is complicated, but he's trying to stop a war. He recognizes it. That's from Putin. That should say something to us. All right. Now, that's my, you got the Ingram angle. You got the Hannity monologue. You got the Jesse Waters intro. That's the Mac Files. I guess I'll just say it's the Mac Files.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
That is the Mac Files. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth segment? How about that? We'll call it that tonight. All righty. I don't even know who's out there tonight. I tell you what, we had a record crowd. we had a record crowd last night. I don't know if they're back out there tonight, but we'll find out later. But we sure are glad you're here tonight. All righty, let me get right to this. Because I want to take your questions tonight. I want to deal with, let's see here. I want to talk about this court case first. I do. I want to deal with the court case with, there were 4 of them tonight, and I'm going to mention all 4 of them. Number 1, we mentioned the judicial tyranny. That was 6-3. Supreme Court voted that these district judges cannot dictate policy. And Amy Coney Barrett wrote the opinion for the majority. And as we say in the South, she benched. I was nice. She bench slapped Ketanj Brown Jackson down tonight. We're going to read her statement and explain why that is so important in a minute. Number 2, the Supreme Court ruled today that your teenager and your child that's under 18, if they go on a porn site, which they should not be going on a porn site to begin with, but these porn sites sued so these kids wouldn't have to put their age in there, and then they could target their filth and they target their stuff to your 6th grader and your 4th grader and your 3rd grader and your kindergartner. And now the Supreme Court said today that the porn sites have got to verify the age before somebody can go on their websites. That's a win. Number 3, it was a California couple that was told by their school system, that was teaching the LGBTQ curriculum in schools. And the books were hideous, folks. The books were saying things that I wouldn't want my 18-year-old reading. I don't have an 18-year-old, but I wouldn't want my 20-year-old reading. But they were putting it in kindergarten classes, and they were putting it in first grader classes. And this couple said, we're going to opt out of that. We're taking our kids out of that curriculum. They're not going to be exposed to that. And the school threatened to expel the child and basically mocked the parents and said, well, you're being discriminatory, you're being homophobic, and your kids just need to get with the program. They sued, took the case to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court sided with the parents today, and they told that school, you can't do that. And you're not going to do it. It's against the law for you to do that. A win today. The other thing is that somebody had sued to halt the deportation of these Haitian immigrants, and Trump fast-tracked the course of the Supreme Court, sided with Trump, said he's got every right to do it. He's the executive of the country. There's nothing in the law that's unconstitutional. If you want to change the law, go to Congress. A win. 4 for 4. This is what President Trump had to say about it today. I'll let him explain it. This is him and Pam Bondi. I think this is it. No, that's not it. We played this today on the radio show, if I can find it right here. That's the tax bill. Here is him and Pam. I think this may be the press thing. Roll tape.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Iris Howe with MTV Research Media with the Alpha Times. Thank you so much for doing this. It's very refreshing for all of us here
It's a good group.
in this room.
It's refreshing.
Very refreshing. Yes, we have
Probably.
this.
I understand what you mean.
So thank you so much for coming out here.
Other than Caroline's done a great job.
Yes.
You're referring to the past administration,
Yes,
not to
yes.
Caroline. By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it. Go ahead. You tell me when it gets boring.
He owned that press room today. I'm going to find this story over here. It's actually on Gateway Pundit. We've read the story, and they've got the video on there. We're going to deal with that story right there. The Senate rejected tonight the Democrats' resolution trying to limit Trump's Iran war powers. Scumbag Rand Paul voted with the Dems. But I want to let you listen to Trump today. He basically stated why this ruling today with the courts was so important. And let's see here. He's going full steam ahead after the Supreme Court ruled the way they did today. And let's see if we got the clip. We do right here. Here is President Trump today. Roll the tape. You're going to get an ad, and I'll get this off for you in just a second.
Are smoothies a good option?
Bear with us here.
One of the biggest.
If you can't manifest
One
abundance,
more.
there are 3 simple reasons why not.
I hate
what's
these ads,
interesting is
folks.
that
That's
the
why
instant
we
culture
do
is-
Thanks to
donations.
this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people.
And that's what this case did today. And the ruling basically put an end to all of this judicial tyranny that was going on in the name of it. We're getting a developing story at 8:20 tonight that there have been explosions heard in Tehran. We're going to follow that. We've not heard anything about it. Here is MSNBC today. They sort of melted down a little bit. they melted down. It's amazing how the left melts down over things like this. But they did today. And this is the analysis. Here she is. Let's let her.
Is effectively yes.
Go.
Yes, that's a distinct possibility, because if a state isn't allowed to obtain a nationwide injunction, then what the Supreme Court has said is every individual plaintiff, they can only get relief as to themselves individually and their children. So that means an individual, a U.S. citizen baby whose parents haven't obtained a lawyer, that the executive branch could deny them citizenship simply because they were not able to file a case to challenge the order as to them. That is just, I think, an appalling result.
It's not an appalling result. It's the law. You heard what Trump said. That law was basically on the books for babies of slaves, not for people coming over here, having a vacation, having babies, and then saying, we get to stay. You don't. You don't. You never were supposed to get to stay. This was a win today for the rule of law in this country. Let MSNBC melt down. It does my heart good to watch meltdowns like that. It was more to it, but I don't care what MSNBC has to say about it. Here is President Trump, and this is the, let's just say that he wasn't too happy with a Canadian reporter that was trying to bait him up about that tariff situation, and I'll let Trump send the message to you Canadians, and I love you Canadians tonight. It's nothing personal. You got a dumb government. You just got a dumb government. We could have avoided all this. We tried to warn you. Tried to warn you 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago. This was coming. People got mad and left. Roll tape.
Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why?
I mean,
Because this is about a different subject right now. This is right now actually a much more important subject. We just ended a war that was going on
And
for
we
30
did.
years with 6 million people.
We just ended a war that had killed 6 million people, folks, and that was the war
Please.
with Congo and Rwanda tonight. Here is what President Trump said. They said, well, do you think that the press will give you credit for this? Of course they won't, but what he said is priceless. Roll the tape.
Mr. President, Kara Castanova from Lindell TV. Now that your administration, and congratulations, has secured peace in Africa to a bloody, horrific war that's gone on for decades and no other president could do it, do you think the mainstream media will finally...
I'm telling you. No other, but you're right. No other president could do it. They tried, and they didn't even try. I actually don't think they tried. Do you think Biden tried? He didn't know he was alive.
Do you think the mainstream media will finally give you credit where credit is due?
No, the media will never give me credit. But the people give me credit. That's why I'm here. The people didn't give me. That's why we're here in a landslide. We got all 7 states. We won the popular vote. So the media won't give me credit, but the people give me credit. That's more important to me.
The people will give me credit. That is more important to me. And that's what should be important to me. That is what should be more important to me. And that's important. Now, I want you to listen to the Rwanda representative and the Congo representative. And this is what they had to say last night, or this afternoon, not last night, but this afternoon. Roll the tape. This is the lady from Congo. I want you to listen to what she said. They tried to call the Biden administration to get him to try to step in and stop this. he wouldn't take their calls. He wouldn't even take their calls. Roll tape.
So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House that cover for the entire continent. So I just arrived from Congo, Democratic Republic of the Congo, yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I've witnessed myself. I spoke with the people on the street. I spoke with youth. They know your name. They know that a president named President Trump is working hard to finally bring peace to the country. I saw hope. They have hope now for a better day in Congo. They see what you're doing as a future, better future for Congo. And I had opportunity to sit down with President Felix Tshisekedi for an interview because I want to understand his mind, what he's thinking, his feeling about everything that your administration is doing. And he told me firsthand that for many years, many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I covered President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country. They never gave me any answer. And he told me, President Tshisekedi, that he's you have no idea, he's very thankful for what you're doing, for what your administration is doing. Not only him, the entire Congolese people, they see that finally they will have hope. And President Tshisekedi also mentioned at the end of my interview that when peace finally comes to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's thinking to nominate you as a Nobel Prize Peace because he said you deserve, you have been working to bring peace in the world, not only at the Congo, and he's very hopeful to meet you in the future.
That's so nice, boy, and that's so beautifully stated. And Caroline said, number one, she did say, and I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect, she said, she's beautiful, and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I say it anyway. But you are beautiful, and you're beautiful inside. So I wish I had more reporters like you. So you covered Africa for a long time?
Yes, for over 10 years.
Wow.
I cover even your first administration.
Yes, I know that. That's great. Well, thank you. That's so nice that you said that.
It is so nice that she did say that. Trump's always very gracious, and he's right. If he'd just called her beautiful, some idiot out there would have been suing him and running some kind of hit piece that he's hitting on women. Here is the Rwanda guy. The guy standing beside her was from Rwanda. This is what he had to say about this. Folks, this is historic today. I'm telling you, this is a big deal. The media is absolutely ignoring it. You got a president, folks, that's committed to peace. He's committed to peace. Say what you want to about him. He's committed to peace. Roll tape.
Because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And there has been many mediation, facilitation in the past, but none of them succeeded. And we believe that it's because of your leadership and your steadfast commitment to this process, with also a new approach of economic integration, regional economic integration, which is important to allow Rwanda and DRC working together, because this is a very rich region with cross-border trade, with the minerals, with natural wealth. So with the U.S. Standing side by side with Rwanda and DRC, we believe that we will achieve a long-time peace. And we also believe that, as my colleague from DRC stated, it's important for the United States to stay committed, because today we signed, but now we need to implement what we have signed in order to open this new era you were talking about of prosperity, so that we can reap the economic dividend of peace. So for this economic integration framework to be implemented, it's important for the U.S. to accompany the parties to implement what we have signed, because in the past we have signed so many agreements that were not implemented. And we are really, we believe that with your leadership, with the involvement of the United States administration, we will reach that goal. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
And we got the mineral rights. That's another thing that happened today.
I can reach over. Do you want to just press them over to me. Let me have them. And I just wanted to give you each. These are your signed agreements. And we'll make sure that you follow through. We'll make sure you follow through. Yeah. We'll make sure that you follow through. Okay?
And he will.
And we have one other thing that we're going to give, that we give to special people only. It's a coin.
Thank you.
And I hope you do that. I'm going to give you a second one for your leader.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
These are serious.
That's beautiful, folks. I wept tonight when I saw this, and I just thanked the Lord. I sat on my sofa. It's one of the reasons I was running a little behind tonight. I was just having a little camp meeting in my house, and I said, Lord, thank you for this. This is big. I've been to Rwanda. As I said, I stood on the airport tarmac in Burundi. It was next door, and we had people from Rwanda. It was back in '94. I was with a group. And I remember the pastors from Rwanda coming over and meeting us in Burundi, sitting in that airport, telling us the horror that they had just went through in the summer of '94. That country has been soaked in blood within, and it's been soaked in blood from the Congo. This is a historic night. This is a historic signing. And I tip my hat to the Congo and Rwanda and President Trump and that man standing beside him out there. We got plenty of time tonight, so I'm not going to worry about the time. I want to play this. This is Marco Rubio today signing that historic deal. Here's what he had to say. It's good stuff.
I'm honored all of you are here today. I'm honored to be joined by my counterparts from the Democratic Republic of Congo and from Rwanda, and the hard work you both put in to make this happen. This was not easy. And there's still work to be done, obviously, in terms of implementation, but we're very honored you're both here. It's been an honor to work with both of you. We have a lot of people to thank. Obviously, the great team here at the Department of State who did a great job. Mr. Bulos, who did a phenomenal job. He's been on the job now about 10 weeks, and he's jumped all over this and really worked it hard, and you did a great job. And we are grateful to you for all of your work. Obviously, this could not have happened without such close friends and partners in the African Union and in Qatar, who we're working a lot lately with Qatar. We're doing a lot of things with you guys, and you've been very instrumental in the African Union. Without it, just couldn't have happened. I mean, you may put everybody together. I do want to recognize my what I say former colleagues. It wasn't 6 months ago. I was still a senator, but they're here now. Senators Rounds and Risch. Senator Risch is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and a very close friend of mine, and he's obviously watched this issue very closely. He's made it a priority. And Senator Rounds has been talking to me about this before I was even nominated to the position and even during the nomination process. And we have others who are not able to make it today that I also want to recognize, Senator Coons and Booker. There's been a lot of interest in this, and we're grateful to all of them. They were invited, but I guess, there's stuff going on in the Senate, as you know. And but we're grateful that both of you are here, and it's instrumental. This is an important moment after 30 years of war. President Trump is a president of peace. He really does want peace. He prioritizes it above all else. We saw his intervention in the conflict between India and Pakistan. We saw his intervention most recently is a few days ago in a very dangerous war, right? A very dangerous war that could have really spiraled out of control, and his intervention made that possible. And there are other places that we want to see this, but we're very excited about this, and we can't wait to have the heads of state, the presidents of the respective countries here in Washington in a few weeks to finalize the complete protocol and agreement. But today is an important step in that direction, and we're grateful to be able to host it here at the Department of State. And just thinking, we think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars. It's not just about saving lives. It's about allowing people to live.
Allowing people to live. By the way, I didn't even talk about India and Pakistan. I can't believe we got 3% saying he don't deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, but I'll save that for a minute. But India, Pakistan folks on the brink of nuclear war just 2 months ago. Trump negotiated peace, got mineral rights from India. He's getting mineral rights from Rwanda. A second conflict, 30 years. He tried his best. He came so close to Russia and Ukraine. I'm not certain he ain't going to get them to stop fighting. He's trying his best. But he staved off World War III doing what he did last week with Iran. It's about giving people the chance to live. Did you notice that there's a common denominator in all of these? We're not telling these countries what to do. We're trying to get them to give their people a chance to live by conducting themselves peaceably. Peaceably. By the way, Paul said that's why we pray for our leaders, that we may live peaceably on this earth. We don't elect warmongers, and we don't elect people like Joe Biden and Barack Obama.
It's about allowing people to now have dreams and hopes for a better life, for prosperity, for economic opportunity, for a family reunification, for all the things that make life worth living. Those things become impossible when there's war and when there's conflict. So we're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day. This is really why I wanted this job, or why I embraced this job so much, is moments like this. This is, in essence, the Department of State is really the Department of Peace. It's designed to bring people together, both in our relations with other countries, but to the extent we can use the stature and the influence of the United States to bring others together. It makes the world a better place. And I honestly believe that when there's peace in the world among friends who may have disagreements and conflict, it does help America. It does help make America stronger and safer and more prosperous. It gives us partners we can do business with. And partners that we can work with to address insecurity and threats to our national security and to our collective national security. So we are grateful to both of you. I know how hard this was and how much work went into it, and we know there's more work to be done. But we are grateful to have you here today. We're honored to be a part of this. We're excited to be a part of it. And again, I do want to thank everyone here in our Africa Bureau and at the Department of State, and once again our superstar there, Mr. Boulos. What do you want to do next after you're done? Sudan. Yeah, very important. Actually, very, very important. And you're very involved in that as well. So, what are you guys doing this week in Qatar? You guys want to work that on? We are grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
That's Marco Rubio, and I say it again tonight, folks. I don't hesitate in saying it, that he may very well go down as one of the best Secretary of States we've ever had. I'm proud. I'm proud of our nation tonight. I'm proud that we've got a government in place over us tonight, folks. And I say it again, and I'm almost choking up saying it. We may never see this opportunity pass our way again as Americans, and we better cherish it tonight, folks. We better appreciate it. We better get on our face and cry to God and say, thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity. That we've got a man that cares about people not getting killed. Goodness. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Here's Jesse Waters tonight. I'm going to let Jesse give you the summary of the past week that Trump's had. Only Jesse can do it his way, and then I'll add some 2 cents, and we're going to read some things tonight. Ketanj Brown Jackson got bench slapped tonight by Amy Coney Barrett. Goodness. We're winning.
Donald Trump's best
what I voted for
just got even better. A big win at the Supreme Court and a big loss for rogue liberal judges. Small ball district judges are no longer allowed to stop the president's agenda. Liberal lawyers can't sue every time Trump acts and get an Obama-Biden judge to issue a nationwide injunction. The ruling was 6-3. Trump stopped by the briefing room to take a victory lap.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law. It gives power back to people that should have it, including Congress, including the presidency. And it only takes bad power away from judges. It really doesn't take power. It takes bad power, sick power, and unfair power. And it's really going to be, this is a very monumental decision.
Bonnie was there, and she said the nation just got a lot safer.
You should all feel safer now that President Trump can deport all of these gangs, and not one district court judge can think they're an emperor over this administration and his executive powers and why the people of the United States elected him.
Among other things, rogue judges were stopping Trump from eliminating birthright citizenship. So after this ruling, birthright citizenship is getting fast-tracked to the Supreme Court. Justices hear the case in October.
Thanks for this decision, and thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation.
Lawfare is officially dead.
Lawfare is officially dead. And I'm going to tell you this tonight, folks. This is a huge win. This is a huge win for our nation, for the rule of law, for Tom Homan, the Department of Homeland Security, the Border Enforcement Agency, ICE. It's a huge win for our nation. It's a huge win for you tonight. You're safer. Pam Bondi's going to say this in a minute. Roll the
Frivolous
tape.
lawsuits were the only thing slowing down the Trump agenda. With Democrats out of power, radical lawyers were the only resistance. Finally, a random judge in Maryland isn't more powerful than the President of the United States.
This is a big win for President Trump.
Such a big win for the Trump administration. And not just Donald John Trump, the person, but the office of the president.
Can you imagine how hard it was for the crap news network to say that today? I bet they had to go take some Pepto-Bismol after that one.
Next is going to get the benefit of this ruling too.
Doge cuts, so-called anchor babies, sanctuary cities, banning child sex change surgeries, all get free and fair hearings at the Supreme Court immediately. The Supreme Court just admitted Trump wasn't abusing his power. Out-of-control judges were. They lost the case and the moral high ground. More good news for America. The stock market just hit an all-time high today.
I forgot to mention the stock market.
And top economists are confessing that Trump was right about tariffs.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody.
Yep.
What is your message?
It sure did.
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. No inflation whatsoever.
It didn't end there. Gas prices just hit 4-year lows right before summer. So cheap that Congress can drive to work next week to watch Trump sign his big, beautiful bill.
Everyone working together, Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, with President Trump's assistants, have been able to move narrow majorities forward. And I think we're going to be able to bring this home. The president will be signing the bill on July 4th.
You know what goes well with beer, barbecue, and fireworks? No tax on tips. Trump isn't even taking credit for it. He's giving it to a beautiful waitress.
I will never say good-looking waitress because looks don't matter anymore, you know, in our modern society. She happened to be beautiful, but I won't say that. I won't mention that. But nevertheless, a waitress came over, and I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Not good, sir." "Why?" "The government is killing me on tips." And she looked at me, she said, "Sir, there should be no tax on tips." I said, "Say it again." "There should be no tax on tips." I said, "That's the coolest thing I've ever heard."
Now, the media wouldn't let him leave. Donald Trump was in the briefing room for an hour.
Let me play something right here on that tariff and the big, beautiful bill. I'm going to interject. Senator John Kennedy, I love you Louisianians. I love you Cajuns down there. Too hot for me. The gnats would drive me crazy, and that humidity would. That's why I like breathing mountain air. But I would move to Louisiana just for John Kennedy to be my senator. I love Mr. Kennedy. Roll tape.
Anybody who knows a law book from an LL Bean catalog knows that federal judges just made up this concept of universal injunctions. There's no basis in statute, no basis in Supreme Court precedent. There's no basis in English common law. They just made it up because they don't agree with what a president or Congress has done. You know, if they disagree, I'm sorry. Fill out a hurt feelings report, buy a comfort rock. But they can't just say, I disagree and I'm putting the entire action by another branch of government on hold because I don't like it. And that's what they've been doing. And they're not the superior branch of government.
Thank you, John.
Branch of government.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I think that deserves it. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? But that wasn't even the best one of the day. This one was the best one of the day. And we got a brand new word for 2025. that you're about to hear from Senator John Kennedy.
They're trying to make everybody happy. It can't be done. We have cussed and discussed and rediscussed. We need to start voting. Everybody needs to adult real hard, and the jackassery has to stop. I have encouraged John and Mike to tell everyone, look, we're going to start voting tomorrow. I love it. If you're not happy, offer an amendment. We'll have a full amendment process.
That is how they can get this bill passed, folks. If you don't like it, add an amendment. You can vote on the amendment. I got to roll that back. The T-shirt is coming.
We're going to start voting tomorrow at noon. If you're not happy, hard, and the jackassery has to stop. I have encouraged John and Mike to tell everyone, look, we're going to start voting tomorrow at noon. If you're not happy, offer an amendment. We'll have a full amendment process. But here's the bottom line. In any legislation of this magnitude, some people are just going to have to settle for a ham and egg sandwich without the ham. That's just the nature of the beast. And I think that if you put everybody to the test and say, look, this is why God made votes, it's time, vote, I think the bill will pass.
All right. I think the bill will pass too. They need to listen to Senator Kennedy. Keep talking, Jesse. We got a few more minutes, Jesse.
That's more time in one day than Biden was in the briefing room his whole term.
By the way, so many questions. Should we keep this going, Pam? This is the opposite of Biden. Biden would take a half a question and he'd leave without answering it.
He didn't stop there. Today he signed another peace deal, this time in Africa. Rwanda and the Congo came to the White House to end their 30-year war. The peace treaty was brokered by Trump and Rubio, and the Africans say Biden just hung up the phones on them.
Many American presidents overlooked this conflict. They didn't do nothing. Even myself, I covered President Biden's administration. I pressed many times about this conflict. People are dying in Congo. This country has so much potential, but they need help because this war is destroying the country. Right. They never gave me any answer.
I shouldn't say this because it's politically incorrect. She said, she's beautiful and you are beautiful. I'm not allowed to say that, that could be the end of my political career, but I said it anyway. But you are beautiful and you're beautiful inside.
Soon Africa will be calling him daddy too. Of course, Trump got a little something from the deal. The M word.
Was able to get them together and sell it. And not only that, we're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to. Look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House.
It was a historic day at the White House. But Canada was in the room and they tried to make it all about themselves.
Why not? Why not Canada, by the way?
Why? I mean, because this is about a different subject.
Yes, it is.
This is right now actually a much more...
That was just rude. That's just rude. That's just rude, not Trump.
Important subject. We just ended a war that was going on for 30 years where 6 million people died. So don't ask me a trade question on Canada.
The only way Canada can get our attention? 51st state, or we can't hear you. We're too busy doing deals.
Thank you, Jesse.
We've had a big week. We've had a big week. We've had a lot of victories this week. NATO was a tremendous victory. The war was a tremendous... Look, we were talking about this for 30 years, about Iran being nuclear. And all I said is it will not be nuclear, and it's not going to be nuclear. And... I want to give credit to a lot of people, most importantly to our great military. Boy, they put out that fire. Once that happened, once those bombs got dropped, that war was over. That war was over, but I just want to compliment them.
You know who isn't having a big week? The Ayatollah.
This is great.
He's hiding in his
this
cave
is great.
And he's lying through his teeth.
I'm going to respond to the...
This is vintage Trump. I was laughing so hard when I heard this tonight. Now, the jackassery comment by Kennedy had me laughing too, and my mind was going T-shirt time with that one. But this one, this is only Donald Trump can do this. This is what he told the Ayatollah about what happened Saturday night. By the way, I know some of you heard the fact, maybe you didn't, but he was on his television. By the way, they've cut the internet off in Iran, so I don't know who was listening to him, but he claimed that Iran beat America and beat Israel. Trump had a message for him today.
Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in his country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were now has been proven. They hit it right down in the spot, 52,000 feet. Think of this dark, no moon. You couldn't see a thing. And they hit the refrigerator door, as they say. That's the size of a target, and overwhelmingly. And it's amazing what was done. We're the only ones that could have done it.
Donald Trump says he's the only thing keeping the Ayatollah alive. Quote, I wish the leadership of Iran would realize that you often get more with honey than you do with vinegar.
Peace!
Democrats are singing the same tune as the Ayatollah. They say our bombs don't work, and they don't say thank you.
They're just finding something to attack them. I mean, that's it. There is no position. There is no goal. There is no set of ideas. It is just, what can we find a way to attack Trump? How can we say that he's a failure, or what he did is not a success? Or I just, at this point, kind of, you start to lose credibility when on every single instance, you're just saying, nope, not good, nope, not good, nope, not good.
Trump gave a beautiful waitress credit for no tax on tips. Why can't Democrats give him credit for the Iranian hit? The party split. Some are calling the president a war criminal, and others are calling him an American hero.
I don't agree with the president of the United States. Do not.
No kidding, Ron. We don't agree with you either.
On many, many issues.
No kidding, Ron. You either.
But you have to admire that when the United States says all options are on the table, he just proved all options are on the table. And China and Russia and even North Korea have to step back, because that has a level of deterrence, so the blast radius of this goes much farther.
Democrats have to face the music. There's only one commander-in-chief, and he conducted quite a week.
He did. Now, we got about, we've gone an hour and 10. I got one more story I want to deal with. I want to deal with Ketanj John Braxton tonight. Is that it? Ketanj Jackson Brown Jackson? I don't know. I don't know her last name no more than she knows whether a woman's a woman or not. So we're even. We're even. I know that we've been disappointed on the right by Amy Coney Barrett. But tonight, she gets a hat tip. Because Amy Coney Barrett said it right. That just goes to show you that we on the right are sometimes a little quick to judge, just like those on the left are. And you better be careful of stereotyping people, because you don't know what's going in their head. And ultimately, those Supreme Court justices have to rule with their conscience. They're going to get some things right. Sometimes they're going to get things wrong. On this case tonight, they got it right all 4 times, 4 for 4. I got to read you 2 things, and then we're going to get to the memes and then get to you tonight. So hang in here with us. I want to read this to you. If you're on the show today, we did this, and I'm going to try to read this. I know the writing's small. If you got a phone, if you got a computer, you can read this, but I'll read it for you. But this is what Barrett wrote in the majority opinion, 6-3, the only 3 people that voted against this. By the way, folks, these 3 same liberal justices voted against age restrictions on porn sites for kids. They voted against the couple, the family in California with the LGBTQ. Sotomayor or Kagan said that the books would enlighten the family. In other words, the books would give the children a broader view of life if they were allowed to be forced to read those. See, that is such evil. I got a word for Elena Kagan tonight, and I got to be careful how I say this, because I don't want to get myself in a tizzy. But I will say this to you, Miss Kagan. If you want your children to go read a bunch of queer books, you have at it. If you want to have your children read books about men having sex with men, have at it. If you want your children to read books about women having sex with women and all sorts of sodomy and all that, have at it. You don't get to tell us what our children gets to read and what we don't get to read. We may not want our children, let me change that. We don't want our children reading such filth. That family didn't want their child exposed to that, which is their God-given and American right. This should have been a 9-0 decision. I didn't expect the judgeship to be 9-0 because Brown, Kagan, and Sotomayor were all invested. They're nothing but Democrat hacks for the Democrat Party on that court. But this age situation with the internet and this situation with the curriculum out there in California, neighbor, that should have been a no-brainer. That's a 9-0 decision. But they said it's okay. It's okay that if your 4-year-old gets on the internet and they want to go to a porn site, that they don't need to be told that they don't have to be somebody, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, whatever, however old it is they get before they're going on the internet. Folks, that's how far sunk the left has taken this country. But this case tonight on these judges is going to mean a world of difference. And I'm going to tell you something. You're going to see a change coming in our country when it comes to law and order. This is a big deal tonight. But I want you to read. I want you to list. I'm going to read this. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to read the story out of the Gateway Pundit. This is from, if you'll let me do this. This is Amy Comey Barrett, and let me see if I've got the statement here. Yes, it's right here. I'm going to read this little part here, and I'm going to put this up. I'm going to go to our Newswire page and read it from there because it's probably easier for you to read it from here. And let me get that off. We still ain't got to talk about New York. We will this week. New Yorkers... Y'all about to elect a commie. A commie. All right. This is Amy Comey Barrett today. They end the abuse of injunctions. No more judicial supremacy. But you got to listen to what she said. Because this is so powerful. And I'm going to go out on this tonight. She said the Judiciary Act of 1789 endowed federal courts with jurisdiction over all suits and equity, and still today this statute is what authorizes the federal courts to issue equitable remedies. Though flexible, this equitable authority is not freewheeling. We have held that the statutory grant encompasses only those sorts of equitable remedies traditionally accorded by courts of equity at our country's inception. We must therefore ask whether universal injunctions are sufficient analogous to the relief issued by the High Court of Chancery in England at the time of the adoption of the Constitution and the enactment of the original Judiciary Act, which is what President Trump was alluding to. And then she goes on, the answer is no. Neither the universal injunction nor any other analogous form of relief was available in the High Court in England at the time of the founding. Equity offered a mechanism for the Crown to secure justice where it would not be secured by the ordinary existence of law. And then she goes down here and she starts dealing with the fact that Ketanj Brown Jackson, she said in her dissent, she said, listen to what she says, the court's decision to permit the executive to violate the Constitution with respect to anyone who is not yet sued is an existential threat to the rule of law. She went on to say that this would be a mortal wound to the Constitution. Now, what I said today on the radio show is what I'm going to try to tell you tonight. What Ketanj Brown Jackson was basically doing is this. She never mentioned the fact of the tyranny of the judicial branch and how that if you got a judiciary individual that violated the Constitution, then that's okay. But we've got to stop the executive branch because the only crooks in D.C. are the executive branch. That's basically what she's saying in South Georgia language. Well, Miss Barrett put the metal to the pedal and the wood to the backside. And this is what she had to say. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent. Folks, our country is not but 250 years old. This has been precedent since we've been a nation. Not to mention the Constitution itself. And I want you to listen to what she said. I love this. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive branch while embracing an imperial judiciary branch. In other words, she's okay with the courts being imperial and telling the executive branch what to do, but she don't want the executive branch to do its job. That's insanity. But coming from a woman that don't know what a woman is, we shouldn't be that surprised. Going forward, district courts will only be able to apply their judgments beyond the areas of their jurisdictions. If the plaintiffs can file their complaints in the form of a class action, demonstrating common inquiries, meaning that a Maryland judge cannot dictate policy for the whole country. Whatever goes on in Maryland affects Maryland, and that case alone, that's all that they can rule on. They can't issue an injunction against Trump and saying you can't do this on a nationwide basis. It only affects that case and that local municipality wherever it's at. But that's never been the people filing these court cases don't care about the local. They wanted this to be national, which was unconstitutional. Left-wing groups who relied on forum shopping to find friendly judges in remote places who could stop national policies, part of an overall strategy of lawfare, have now lost a key weapon in their arsenal. And this is Carrie Severino. She commented that the court has shut the door on the abuse of universal injunctions. Today's decision is a victory for our constitutional separation of powers. Justice Alito's concurrence sounds the alarm that litigants have been attempting to abuse class actions and standing processes, as well as shows the court is well aware of the problem and prepared to police those boundaries to shut down judicial activists. Looks like a lot of people were crying wolf on Justice Barrett. She stood up and did the right thing tonight. I've got another story that really, I wished I had time to read, but we're out of time tonight. We'll pick this up next week. That may be right there. Amy Coney Barrett haymakers against Ketanj Brown Jackson have to be seen to be believed. She sort of nailed it tonight, and that's Marlowe, the guy from Breitbart. Gateway Pundit's got this story. I hope you listen to the radio show today. We had this on the radio show, and basically what is being said, folks, is simple. You can't decry executive tyranny, as Ketanj Brown Jackson was doing, if you're not going to decry judicial tyranny that was going on in the courts. See, that was a political. Her dissent was nothing but politics. She was basically saying, well, the only evil part of our government is Donald Trump in that White House. That's what she basically was saying. She was not even acknowledging that there would be evil, wicked judges that are ruling from the bench in a political manner. All of that stopped tonight. That's why it's a win for the USA. Now, we got a lot more to talk and a lot more to do, but we're out of time tonight. Let me by the way, you got to see this. This is why we love President Trump. He was walking after the news conference today. He was walking down the hall, and a band was playing God Bless America. Roll the tape. Isn't that beautiful? Beautiful. Before we go tonight, I want to sum up one more time, just so you'll know how big a week this has been. A ceasefire between Iran and Israel after the nuclear facilities were destroyed. Supreme Court ends the judicial coup by limiting nationwide injunctions. Trump secures 5% of GDP defense. We hadn't even talked about that. He was in NATO. He got a 5% increase. We're not paying their bills for him anymore, of every NATO country, amounting to billions. That will come back into the coffins of America. Rwanda and the Congo have just signed a peace deal. Another war ended. 30 years of war ended. Trump received permission from SCOTUS to send illegals to third-party countries. By the way, the Haitians, bye-bye. See you, Haitians. Adios, amigo. That was also a win tonight. That was that fourth case. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hit record highs today, by the way. Trump emerges victorious after a Senate attempt to rein in his Iran strikes through a war resolution fails. Rand Paul is a scumbag. He voted with the Dems. The China trade deal has been signed. Tariffs are working. We told you they would work. Trump emerges several food giants, joined the growing list removing artificial dyes from their food products, thanks to RFK Jr., who's doing an excellent job, in my opinion. Economic experts now admit total defeat and the panicins over Trump's tariffs. Social Security handout saw the largest monthly decline ever after Doge. The attempts to end waste, fraud, and abuse. It's amazing when you start getting the freeloaders off the rolls, what happens to the money that outgoes. Just make that up. That's pretty good. Big Balls made a return to the Trump administration. He had quit. He's back in the Social Security. They're letting him. He was the big Doge hero. The kid, just a young kid. Didn't look like he could even shave. But he's back. General Electric is now moving manufacturing from China to Kentucky. Isn't that peachy? The Pentagon began reinstating service members who were wrongfully discharged for refusing the COVID vaccine this week. And the DEI president of the University of Virginia resigned after pressure from the Trump administration. That's all in just 1 week, folks, and that's not even everything. That's just sort of a summary. By the way, there's a Washington Post reporter tonight, one of the most biggest names in D.C., got arrested tonight on child pornography charges, thanks to Janine Pereiro doing her job. There's a new sheriff in town, folks. This is why we call it winning. This is why we call it winning. Winning, 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 winning. Trying to see if there's anything else I want to play tonight. By the way, New York, I hope you're proud of yourself, you New York City folks. That's what they're doing to the American flag. He was only taking down the American flag. That's why getting these illegals sent back to their respective countries is so important. So important. I wish I'd have downloaded that Rush Limbaugh and Ronald Reagan tape. We got some. We'll be back Monday. We'll be back Monday night. Ricky's coming with me early in the evening, and then we'll have another chin wag Monday night. All righty, I'm done. I'm not done, but I'm done. It's late. All right. Now, I've run my mouth for nearly an hour and a half. I'm going to let you run your mouth. We're up to 99.1. If you got a question, and Lamore, I don't know who you're saying you'll let her know that you said that. Well, let her know all you want to. I said it. Paul and Massey have been really disappointing. You know, Mir, the terrible thing about what you just said, they're both from Kentucky, and that's shocking because Kentucky is a fairly red state, and both senators have been nuts. I'll agree. That is an excellent statement. I cannot have an answer for that. I don't have an answer for that. I just don't have an answer for that. But anyway, they've been more than disappointing. They have stood in the way of President Trump's agenda. That's going to get them primaried out. Rand Paul, his daddy, Ron Paul, was a nut to me. I never did like Ron Paul. I don't like Rand much more. There's times when Rand can make a lot of sense, and there's times when he does stuff like this, voting with the Dems tonight, you just shake your head at. Massey is just a complete nut. And Kentuckians, I don't know what you're thinking, but if you're going to elect Republicans and go up there and fight for the country instead of rhinos. Please do us that favor. And McConnell, yes. McConnell, too. Yes, Carol, Obama was given the Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing. And by the way, we had more video tonight, but there was a video with Scott Jenkins tonight on CNN. CNN was trying to tell everybody that Trump don't deserve it because he's gotten us into all these wars. And Scott Jenkins rolled his eyes and he said Obama, because they were mentioning the Obama Peace Prize, and Scott Jenkins said that Obama dropped 6 or 7 more times more bombs and drones on nations in his 8 years than any president in history, and he still got the Nobel Peace Prize. That was a complete joke. I'll say it tonight, folks. If Trump don't get this after this, there's no Nobel Peace Prize. It will totally confirm what people have been saying all along, that it's nothing but a political show. It's like an Oscar. Don't mean nothing. Sandy, you says, do you think Don Jr. would run for president? I hope he don't. There's none of the Trump family that I dislike. I think that Don Jr. does not have the temperament to be a good president. And I got reasons for saying that. He's not his daddy. Eric is not the gravitas. The one I would keep an eye on, and we can't have him for about another 20 years, and that's Barron. That's a smart kid. Barron is like his mother. And if Barron Trump, if I'm around, if God gives me that long on this earth and he tarries that long, I would love to see Barron Trump run for president one day. I would not be as thrilled with Don Jr. That's just my opinion. You know, and I got my reasons for saying that. Stephen Feinhoy says, I call Rand Paul the no senator because all he knows is how to do is vote no on Trump's agenda. Well, he does that, Stephen, and I don't understand it because his dad was a libertarian, of course, and libertarians tend to be like this, and they're very, very narrow-minded about war and narrow-minded about economics. And there's just some things, and it's like John Kennedy said, not everybody's going to get everything they want in this bill. Stop, can I use his word tonight? Stop the jackassery and get it done. Vote. If you need to change something, put an amendment out there. Mr. Paul, Mr. Massey, you don't like something? Put your amendment out there. You got a Republican Senate. You got 53 votes in the Senate. Goodness. And if the Republicans will be smart, they don't have to have 60 Democrats. They don't have to have 60 votes. If they'll just do this straight up, vote. Vote. So let Rand Paul do his thing. Anyway, let's see what we got over here on Facebook tonight. Anything? Corey Aguilar likes that comment. She likes that comment. Roger Hooker says the jackassery has to stop. It does, Roger. It does. It does. It does. It does. It does. It does. Let's see here. Any questions out of Facebook tonight? Corey said she was born on a naval base and she still had to be naturalized. That's interesting. And that, Corey, that's right. You're very right. Thank you, Jan Klaus, for those kind words, my friend. I just read your comment. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do. It's been a good show tonight. I hope everybody's enjoyed the show. We're almost done. We're right at an hour and a half. Carol, your statement, Carol Smith says, since they can't stop Trump in courts, I'm afraid what they might do next. Well, they've tried to kill him twice, Carol. They tried to kill him twice. I'm with you on that. They'll try to find something else. They really ain't got no more avenue to do it. Look, when James Carville is out there tonight, and James Carville is a Democratic dinosaur, he's out there really telling the Democrats tonight what they did in New York City. He said, we've been trying to tell the world that we're not socialist and communist in the Democrat Party. He said, we lost that argument now. He said, we are literally confirming and making it clear to the country we're communist. And folks, I'm going to tell you, I would think that New York City would come to its senses come November, but don't be so sure that this jackanapes won't get elected. I'm thinking that he's going to be the next mayor of New York. I may be wrong. The media is not going to hold him to account because the left-wing media is tickle pink, and AOC is tickle pink tonight, and Bill Clinton's tickle pink tonight, and Ilhan Omar's tickle pink, and Bill de Blasio, another communist mayor of New York City that you all had up there, is tickle pink tonight. Not good. Spec Army, the radio show can be found at kstartalkradio.com. I just put it in the chat. If you go to that website at 2 o'clock every day, Monday through Friday, and click on the Listen Live button, you'll hear the Mac News and Journal Report. That's what it's called over there on the radio. And it's mainly a news show. We do the headlines, talk about opinion, and we have a guest or two every now and then. But it's mainly me. I don't know if that's good or bad. The good thing about the radio is you can't see my face, and the faces that I make, and the eye rolls, and the... Oh, you can't see the expressions on my face, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Anyway. Good to see you tonight, sir. Good to see you. Thank you for your service. Roger Trump 28. I know. I don't think that's going to happen, buddy. I know you may think it's going to happen. It's not. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Trump's given us 8 years. If I was President Trump, he's doing what he can do. And folks, it's a close tonight because I don't see any more questions. Listen, we need to be grateful for this time of history that we're living in. And we need to be grateful that we've got this opportunity. And we are at an hour and 39, so I'm going to wrap it up here. We're 9 minutes over. Listen, be grateful for this time of history that we're living in, that we're seeing what a country looks like that's run by a leader, a godly leader. He's not perfect. He's going to have some F-bombs that he's going to drop from time to time. He's going to he's going to do things that not all of us are going to be pleased with. And I would even say this about Amy Coney Barrett and all the Supreme Court justices, folks. Look, they're not our lackeys. They have to rule by their conscience. I wasn't happy with what Coney Barrett did with some of these decisions here recently, but tonight, I have to tell you, reading that, and she's a junior member of the court. They normally don't let a junior member write an opinion. Her opinion is as well written an opinion by a Supreme Court justice about the rule of law that I've ever seen. So we can't stereotype people, and we on the right need to take a chill pill, and I'm going to say this to us tonight. We need to stop acting like the left when we don't get our way. Now, I know we don't go out and burn things down, but to see the childish behavior out there on that internet by people when everything don't go their way and they're ready to call for people's heads, we just need to grow up ourselves. Because it's like John Kennedy said, we're not all going to get everything we want out of this country, and everything that President Trump does is not going to please everybody. We just need to be thankful, folks, that we got what we got. And I keep saying this over and over, and it just seems like I have to say it every night, and I don't mind saying it over and again. It could be worse. You could have Kamala Harris as your president. God has given us this freedom to be stewards over. And we can either bellyache and complain about it, or we can be grateful for it. He gave us President Trump back. He saved a man's life twice, really 3 times. We need to be grateful for it. And I know some of you ain't going to certainly like this comment. You need to be grateful for that little tiny nation and that red, white, and blue, or the blue and the white star there on the right and the red, white, and blue on the left. But you better be grateful for that union. Because when we bless Israel, we're going to be blessed. Now, again, I know the Jew haters out there and the anti-Semites and the QAnon nuts and the ignorant wretches that have no better things to do than to act like Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, who is as vile an individual as I can ever describe with my mouth. We can act like that, believe that if we want to, or we can be grateful that we're being blessed tonight. Folks, this has been a magnificent week. We may not be able to do a program like this ever again, but this past week has witnessed some historic stuff that has went down, and I believe it's just the beginning. And we need to pray for our president. And folks, again, if you are looking at him as being your pastor, you're going to be highly disappointed. He's not your pastor. He's your president. You need to pray for him as such. He's doing everything he can. You know, it's amazing to me how hypocritical the church is. The church gets out there and judges Donald Trump for his marriages. It judges him for his language. It judges him for his tweets. It judges him for his personality. It always throws up his past. These church leaders always complaining. There will be people tonight, and while I'm no fan of her doctrine, there will be people tonight that saw that video today with the Congo and the Rwanda thing. A historic peace treaty of 30 years was signed tonight, stopping war that had killed 6 million people. Think about this. You know what people are going to complain about tonight when they see that video? They're not going to be happy about the peace treaty. You know what's going to be put out there by the Christian chat rooms? Paula White. Paula White was in that video. Paula White was in that video. We don't need to trust that peace treaty. Look at her. He had Paula White there. That's petulant children for you. That's ungrateful children. That's ungrateful people that strain at gnats to swallow camels. And Jesus, all he had to say about people like that is, woe unto you hypocrites. We better be grateful for this time of history and stop belly aching, or this freedom that we have is going to be taken from us and we're not getting it back. And we need to be grateful to God tonight for everything that's happening in this country, the good and the bad, because even in the bad, God is going to get glory for it. And folks, I just sense it again. He is giving us one more chance to get this destiny right and take this gospel to this world before it's too late, because the clock is ticking to the end. But he's given us a reprieve. Let's be good stewards of this freedom tonight and pray for this nation. All righty. I love you. I hope you have a great weekend. We will see you tomorrow night if you'd like to come join us over on the Face side for some good old-fashioned Southern gospel music. If you are on the news network, if you'll put the McFiles Faith Network in your browser, go over there and subscribe to it tonight. You will listen. You'll get uplifted tomorrow night. We won't be talking, but we will be playing some music, including some music from this wild CD right there. I don't know who that old gray-headed dude is right there. Isn't that a good-looking dude? But He's the one we serve. What kind of man? Beautiful CD that we just had come out, and we'll be playing some songs off of it tomorrow night and some other topics. Sunday morning, if you'd like to come in, join us for our Sunday morning worship service. We have one at 10 o'clock on our Faith Network Sunday night at 6. We'll be back here Monday night at 8 o'clock with Ricky Wilson. And then a late show Monday night with the news side. K-Star Talk Radio, 2 o'clock Monday. Now, we will be with you Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday morning. And the 4th of July, we will only do a Facebook short to welcome and wish our nation a happy birthday. We're going to be gone week after the 4th for a time of rest and to get restored. And this is a very special week on the calendar. I'll just leave it at that. And but I'm going to be away, and we won't be gone the whole week, but we'll be gone most of the week following. I want to thank you all for being with us tonight. We love you all. We thank you for joining us. Thank you for the donations this week. If you're on the news side and you like what you're hearing, we could sure use you. We operate strictly on the goodwill offerings of our listeners, and we thank you for keeping us on the air. And we love you so much tonight. May the Lord bless you. Have a great weekend. And take care out there. Be safe. Pray for your country. Pray for President Trump. Ho! What a week. What a week. Have a good night, everybody.